Welcome to a grand conversation with Grandpa Diesel and grandson Raphael, tackling current topics from a grandpa's point of view and from a grandson's point of view. Welcome. Hello to another podcast. I'm Grandpa Diesel, and with me is
grandson Raphael.
And someone else back by our demand. Mm-hmm. Who is it?
Tommy,
yeah. How's it going, Tommy?
It's going great. How are you doing?
So, we were talking about your soccer season's over, you said?
Yeah, ended today.
Dang.
District semifinals.
Yeah, wow. Is that the farthest you guys have made it? Or have they made it that far before?
I'm sure a long time ago we went pretty far. But
yeah.
from my career as a high school soccer player, I'm a junior.
Uh-huh.
So my freshman year, we went to the district finals and got absolutely destroyed.
Really? Okay.
There's a school called Highland.
Yeah.
They're like huge school. It's insane. I don't even know how they're Division 5.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of crazy.
But, and they have this huge turf field. We went there, we lost 10-0.
Oh, this was the last. But yesterday it was, or today? No,
today.
Yesterday.
Today.
Oh, today you just by one goal.
Yeah, we lost one goal. And then we hit the post, yeah.
It was a rough loss.
Did they have a good goalie? Was he blocking a lot of good stuff?
Freshman, he was huge. He was a big goalie. I mean, he wasn't insane, but he was good enough.
Yeah. And Ralph, how was your day today?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yep.
Can you tell me one thing you learned today?
I was going to ask that same thing.
I love to ask my grandkids that. Tell me one thing you learned today.
I did a little learning session for a history test I'm retaking.
Oh, okay.
So I learned a little bit there.
I don't think I'm going to ask you about the history of retaking your... Is it history test?
Yeah, it's my history test,
Okay, well, whatever the history of that is and why you have to retake it.
Oh, yeah.
We won't go into that, right? So, today, we're going to talk about a biblical worldview. And that's kind of a term out there, and I was thinking of a lot of current events all the current events going on. We got wars, we got shootings, we got assassinations, we have all this stuff, immigration, and often you hear this term, biblical worldview, like looking through the lens of the Bible. And so, just when you hear that term, what do you guys think of? What does that even mean?
Want to begin, Raphael? When you can start first?
Yeah, I think that term can mean different things depending on the person saying it. But to me, I would say it reminds me and it makes me think of compassion and mercy and all this type of stuff. You know, Jesus was very forgiving and all this stuff. It just makes me think of that.
Yeah. What I also think of, there's time for mercy, but if you look at the Old Testament, there's been a lot of times where he's placed judgment, and sometimes it comes out the effect of destruction. So I like to bring up that point. So I think there is time for punishment as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so in general, it's like looking at the Bible and the precepts in the Bible and looking at the world, trying to figure out the world through the lens of the Bible, right? Would you say that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so... I actually looked on this Bible Hub. I was looking at what are some of the kind of the precepts of a biblical worldview, and I'm sure they vary. But one is that it's rooted in the authority of Scripture of the Bible, and so you're looking at that. And then the second one they list is God is the creator of all things, and so I think that's kind of. When you think of the basis of looking at the world through the Bible, you have to believe that God is the creator of all things, and I think that's probably number one. That's one of the dividers in society today. That people who don't even believe in God, so they're obviously not looking to God as the creator of all things, so their lens is completely different than looking through a biblical lens. So, and God is creator of all things, and so I was thinking about that, and Raph and I, we've kind of talked about, there's an author, Lee Strobel, and he has a very interesting story. He was an investigative reporter, and he was basically an atheist, and he wanted to... His wife became a Christian, and he wanted to disprove Christianity So he was this really kind of a top-notch investigative reporter. So he went out to disprove Christianity, and he ended up proving it and becoming a Christian. But he has a book called "The Case for a Creator."
Yeah.
And anyway, just throwing that out there as we're talking about this point, but it just really talks about the science behind proving that there is a fine tuner of the universe, God. Namely God. I don't know, have you ever heard that concept of fine-tuning?
You know what that reminds me of so much?
What's that?
So there's a person who is testing the Shroud of Turin. I'm not sure the viewers know what the Shroud of Turin is. It's basically the burial cloth that Jesus was buried with that covered his body when he was placed in the tomb. And so when he resurrected, that was left because obviously got up and left. Hallelujah. The cloth that he was buried in had like a burn mark of Jesus's face and his body on it, like his like kind of chest up, his body, which is amazing because that's baffled so many like people for. I mean, it's been around since Jesus, obviously, 2,000 years ago, and there's been people testing it for years, and it was kind of passed around for a while, like kind of going down generation for generation. It was very jumbled around during the medieval period where different kings would come, especially over the Crusades, where who owned it, and there's been several times where people have tried to destroy it, which have failed, and it's amazing because there was one case where it was in a church, it was getting burned down. I'm not sure if it was on purpose or not, but I just know there was a fire, and the thing had a little bit of burn marks in the corners, but was untouched. It was like the only thing that survived this fire. And people are amazed by that. But then, to this current day, people have been doing experiments on it recently with our new technology. And there's this atheist man, I'm not sure of his name, but I know this story is true, that he was trying to do a I gotcha moment to all the Christians in the world who believe in Jesus by testing it, trying to prove it's a fake and it's fraud. And he ended up converting to Catholicism because he's like, there's literally no way.
Right.
Even today, this could be made.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
not even like back then. They could. It's not even close.
Yeah, I think if anybody look, there's some good stuff out there that gives it the details and the science behind it. And I think as we talk about this, the science points to God and points to Jesus. It's proving and historical evidence, and we're not going to delve into all that. But so another just a point of looking through. Having a biblical worldview, another tenet of that is humanity is created in God's image. And I think that's another maybe kind of a dividing line, that if you don't believe in God, then of course you're not going to believe that we're created in God's image, but we are, which gives us dignity. So I like to talk to, I do some substitute teaching, and one of my things, and the kids who have subbed in their classes, and I give a figure. I ask them how many people were ever created in the history of the world. How many were there ever? And I looked this up once, and it's an essay. Do you guys have any guesses, or
how many people existed?
Ever existed in the history of the world?
There's 7 billion now.
8 billion.
8 billion now.
Yeah.
8 billion.
I'm gonna say a trillion.
I'm gonna say 80 billion.
Oh, okay.
80 billion?
Raph, you win.
Really?
You win, Raph.
Wow.
Do you know what you win?
What?
Nothing. You just the satisfaction of knowing you're the closest.
Really?
Yeah, I would say. Tommy, I'm right with you. I would guess it's true, but it's 100 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, because there's 8 billion now, but that's like not like there's not 8 billion every year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like it's a slow process. So anyway, but out of the and I talked to them, out of those 100 billion, how many are exactly like you? And they get it now because they've heard me say 0. There's nobody ever created in the history of the world exactly like them, and nobody will ever be created exactly like them. And that's a scientific thing too. And I like science because I have the science background, being a retired pharmacist. But that, the science shows that we're each one of us, we're genetically different, and the child in the womb is not the same as the mother's DNA and genetics. So. All the way through life, so we're all different. Anyway, any thoughts on that? Precept or
this is why there's people out there who think that the universe is infinite, and I completely would disagree with that statement. Because hear me out: if the universe was infinite,
That'd mean there would have to be a person who's made every single decision that you've made, who looks exactly like you, who acted like exactly like you, who has the same exact DNA makeup, because it would be guaranteed, and then that person would be existed a million times, because if the universe is infinite, that means it leaves nothing out. So that means the probability there's never zero probability, since that basically if the universe was infinite, there would have to be someone like you, because there's infinite places where it would have to succeed. You know what I mean? And like that's just crazy to me. Like I don't think that. The concept of infinity, I don't think a lot of people understand.
Any thoughts on that, Raph?
Very complex scientific stuff.
That sounds like it.
But yeah, that you do bring up a good point that if the universe was infinite, there'd be exact copies of you infinitely, which I feel like also would sort of take away from the specialness of humanity and the uniqueness if there's just infinite versions of you.
Yeah. I think that gets back to that book, The Case for a Creator. They talk about, the universe had a start.
Yeah.
Which, we believe through the biblical worldview, again, that God created the universe and he started it. But then they'll try to veer from that. It's interesting that I found in reading that some people just refuse to believe that God could have started the universe. They don't want to. They want to keep explaining away. So another theory would be that there's multi-universes. Well, so what? Who started the multi-universes? That's one aspect.
I mean, in science, matter is neither created nor destroyed.
Yeah, right.
So matter can't make itself.
Right.
So how does it all start?
Right.
And that's a rule that's like objectively true. Like
Right.
when something is destroyed, it's not actually gone. It just transfers into something else.
Exactly.
Like when you burn something, it becomes smoke and goes into the air. Like there's no such thing as matter creating itself. There's been no instance ever. Like show me the proof of that. It's never happened. So
right.
People, I don't know, like what they argue. It's infinite. I'm gonna bring up Aquinas.
And I think it's interesting. Yeah, I mean it's kind of on this topic of biblical worldview. I think people don't want to believe that God is behind it all, because then they kind of have to change the way they look at the world.
Yeah.
Really, they do, and they don't want to.
And more they live their life.
They want to do what they want to do and think they got it. Okay, there's just one more tenet. Then maybe we'll discuss some more current things and try to apply these. But I think this is a big one, actually. The fall and the need for redemption. That's for biblical worldview. So the biblical worldview is not that we're perfect. It's that, we fall, we make mistakes, but we can be redeemed. We don't. And so I kind of look at this as, you look at people today. I mean, there's so many dividing lines, but there's no room for redemption and mercy.
Yeah.
And so I look at the biblical worldview, and it's all about redemption and mercy, and Jesus talking about, forgiveness. And I feel like that's one thing, those are the things that are kind of lacking in today's world. Any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah.
I do think this is something we can see a lot, how with the division, I think it's just increasingly growing at this point. And I think that it's getting solidified, so more people are becoming divided, and the people who were already divided are becoming more staunch in their position of division. And there's not really, for the most part, like good messaging or trying to bridge the gap almost. Dialogue, exactly.
Right. A couple of the things, so the biblical worldview, there's a couple of things I really look at. Like, so how should we be living in a biblical worldview? And the Bible that I'm using throughout this podcast in reference to Bible verses is the New Catholic Study Bible, St. Jerome edition. And just to verify earlier, when I referred to the Bible Hub, that's actually a website. And so in Matthew 5, there's the Beatitudes. And it's kind of like along what we talked about, and Jesus is talking about in a few of them. I'm not going to list them all, but happy are those who are humble; they will receive what God has promised. And so you look at humility. Yeah. How, do we see humility in the world? Do we see humility from our leaders? Do we see humility even in ourselves? I guess we should look at ourselves first. Are we humble in all that we do?
Gotta be humble to look at yourself in the first place.
Yeah.
What's that?
You gotta be humble to look at yourself.
Yeah.
In the first place.
Right. Yeah. And the other one was, happy are those who are merciful to others. God will be merciful to them. So, and we kind of touched on that, in which, to me, that's mercy and compassion. And we can talk about the immigration issue, bring that up.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's such dividing lines, and there's no dialogue there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like on one side, there's compassion. On the other side, not so much compassion, but more of, okay, this is just the way it is, kind of a legal law thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to come to the middle.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have laws, but we also need compassion and mercy. Any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah. Well, we need love in every position in the world. We need love everywhere. I mean, especially in this, like, there's a lot of bad things. To be honest, there's a lot of bad things happening in the world right now, and one that's related, like, that's understandable for me as an American that I can kind of be familiar with is immigration policy, which is very, very big in America right now. And I think that we just need to, like, do the thing that would help the most people. I think, and not in a utilitarian kind of way, but like we need to have we need to preserve our humanity. Does that make sense? Where we can't. I mean, like, it's the same thing with, like, stuff like abortion, where we're losing our humanity by deeming someone not a human. Like, these big things that are integrated into our culture are causing us to lose our humanity by putting these evil values in. And I think that we need to be, one, welcoming. My dad's an immigrant.
Oh,
so
is
he went through the whole process.
Oh, wow, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
he's from Canada.
Wow.
So,
by the way, you might be a future guest, right?
yeah,
On our
hopefully,
podcast.
yeah. He would love that. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think that we just need to put love in the situation.
Right.
And
I'm thinking of the Beatles. All you need is love.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there are times where I think there needs to be a line that can't be crossed. Like, if I don't want criminals in our country. I don't want people to harm people, to steal. I don't want people stealing. I don't want people selling drugs. I don't want any of that. I want that out of my country. But if someone wants to work hard and wants to be providing to society, wants to be a hardworking citizen, then go ahead, let them in. Like, I think that's great. But in the people that don't want to have embetterment to do things for the embetterment of society, I don't want them there in the first place. But that doesn't mean that we can treat them like animals. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. And here's what kills me, though, is that our legislatures, Congress, senators, whatever, I don't hear any talk of trying to reform the immigration laws. There's just no talk at all.
Yeah.
It's like, well, let's do something here. Let's figure out a way to be compassionate and merciful, and also so we don't allow murderers and criminals in our country.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ralph?
With the Biblical Worldview, Catholic social teaching specifically mentions, and it's in the Catechism as well, that there needs to be solidarity among nations, solidarity among many things like workers and the people who own, like, a company or something, or like families and things like this, but also mentions solidarity among nations. And I think using immigrants and, like, scapegoating them and, like, hurting them and all this stuff violates that idea of solidarity among nations. But there is still the line, obviously. You shouldn't let, I don't think you should let everybody in. I'm pretty liberal, open borders policy, not fully open though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there are certain lines that I think shouldn't be crossed, but
Yeah. No, I think that for sure. It's like, I remember you talking to me this earlier. It was like, you think they should be easier to get into the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that, for sure. I think that we should let in the people who, well, for one, most of these people are, Raphael, do you know the reason why most of these people are trying to get into the country?
Because their countries have tons of problems and they're trying to look for new opportunities.
Escape, new opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's a big value of America's. We're the country of opportunities.
Yeah, opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why all the Irish came in. That's why we have our culture is what's the term?
Melting pot.
Melting pot of culture. I think that's great. I think that's a great thing. We have a great situation going on where we've been. There's been exceptions, but we've been I think a pretty accepting country of a lot of different cultures. There might be some slip ups from time to time. You might disagree with that statement, but
yeah,
I think that overall, like, I mean, I love all the cultures. I think it's amazing. I think culture is is a gift from God that help us to express ourselves. I think that's great. I think that's having a trademark from a country is great, and I think that we need to preserve that. And so I think that a good way is to, especially in the Mexican borders, to like letting the people who like we were talking about in our last podcast, if you want to do hard work, you're going to get somewhere in life. If you want to be, or if you're willing to do hard work and give to society, society's going to give back. That's the whole point of society, is to be giving back for what you give. So I think that we need to hold that value still in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think that we need to get serious about figuring out a way to make it easier for people who are honest, hardworking people, and they just see America as a land of opportunity, getting out of a bad situation in their country, maybe a terrible situation, coming to America, a land of where they have some hope, and making it easier for those people to get in. And and then one other beatitude that Jesus talks about, it is more, but the one I wanted to highlight is, happy are those who work for peace. God will call them his children. So, and it's interesting. He says work for peace, and and there's different translations of how but this particular one is work for peace, because it's not easy. And I was just thinking how it starts with our own lives, and there are people that we're not at peace with. We need to bridge those gaps, and then, but as more of a society thing, we always need to be working for peace. And when you look at what's happening in our country and the world, and the dialogue that's not happening, there's not so many peacemakers out there.
Yeah, as like we can see, I think, with things like the multiple wars going on and things like this, that there, like you said, there's not enough of a movement for peace, I think. It's happening, it started with probably the most major war that we can think of to start it off was Ukraine, and then obviously in Palestine and Israel with that conflict, and there's also plenty of other conflicts going on across the world still, and there's mass protests sweeping across the world right now. Governments being overthrown, like in Nepal. We can see also tons of, even within countries like the U.S., there's mass protests. They're not necessarily violent or anything, but there's clearly lots of tension brewing that I think bodes ill for future peace.
I mean, the abortion too.
Oh, of course.
In America. I know you're really active in the abortion pro-life.
And I like to bring up the words from Mother Teresa that the greatest destroyer of love and peace is abortion. If life is looked at as not made in the image of God, but just something we can throw away, discard, and in the case of assassination, shoot if we don't agree with the person, so it's kind of like human life becomes something that you can do away with if it's in your way of what you want to do, or if you disagree with that, way of thinking in the case of like assassinations and things. So, and we could get into the whole abortion issue at another time. That'd be great. But
it's a whole different topic.
Well, it could be a whole podcast, so we'll have to think about that. It's not an issue; it's a tragedy, actually.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And getting back to the peace thing. Okay, so I just looked up the current world population. What did you say it was?
8 billion.
Yeah, you're
8
right.
billion,
Man, you guys are good. 8 billion. And I think I mentioned this to you, Ralph, talking about peace. I feel like, say there's 8 billion people in the world. The vast majority of those 8 billion people just want to live in peace, have their, be with their families, support themselves. And I feel like it's this minority of leaders, governments, whatever, that are causing all the problems. Any thoughts on that? I feel like, as just typical people and citizens, we just want peace. We just want to kind of be left alone, work what we're going to do, at our jobs or with our families. But it's always this tension between leaders, between countries, between territory, and disputes and history of disputes, and so I feel like if the entire most of the population of the world we were able to get together and say, enough's enough. We're done with fighting. We're done with wars. We just want peace. We want to be left alone. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I do think the people...
It's kind of maybe not naive, but, just...
Idealistic.
Yeah,
almost.
idealistic.
Yeah.
There you go. Good, yeah.
I do think that the violence is mostly spurred on or incited by a small minority, I'd say. Like, it's not... like, I'm sure if you, polled most people, they prefer to have a world of peace, and they will prefer... You can even see this in part of the reason people voted for Trump is because he said he was going to end wars and make peace and all this stuff. So, and also, even if we go further back, there's during the Vietnam War, mass protests about Vietnam, all this type of stuff. People don't like violence very much, but for instance, we can see this in things like the military-industrial complex. And then there's always power-hungry people on a certain occasion, like Adolf Hitler, or you could say Napoleon Bonaparte, or something like this. There's plenty of people who are very ambitious and want power. And then there's certain systems in place, like the military-industrial complex, and all this stuff that will end up causing violence to occur. And then these people will, like Hitler was a terrible person, but he was a good orator, and so he was good at sort of inspiring and galvanizing the people to actually fight and for his corrupted, twisted views. So it's these few people who actually, if they have mass support, it's only because they've inspired it and they've scapegoated someone, or they've made it seem like that's going to solve their people's problems when it's actually not.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that peace in the world, I like your point earlier. It starts with you. It starts with, are you at peace with yourself? And that the only way to achieve that peace with yourself is live a moral life. And if you live a moral life, it's going to lead to you being more kind, and then more confident in yourself, which I think will lead to, if there's peace in yourself, which there would be peace in your family. And if there's peace in your family, you're going to bring peace to other families. You're just going to keep growing and bring peace to your neighborhood, and peace to your city, and then peace to your county, peace to your country, peace to the continent, peace to the world. I think it's a chain effect. I think but it starts with you. It starts with the person.
Yeah.
And we all live our life as a journey, Right. And it's all about I mean, sometimes I feel like you need to trust the process of yourself. Look at Saint Augustine. He lived an absolute horrible life. He had a concubine. He had all his stuff. But his mom prayed for him. I think it was the Feast of St. Monica yesterday. Or sometimes this week. I'm pretty sure. Okay. Or this month. Or this year. I don't know. We'll ask this year. But, and she prayed for her son every single day. And he was a very, very intuitive young man. He thought a lot. He was very, very reason-based in the way he lived his life, which I think is great. I think is a good thing. He's a very, very skeptical person. Right. So he kind of was bouncing around all these different views. He was a Manichaean, which is basically a sept of Christianity that thought Jesus existed, but they believed that eating plants made you saved. And it was weird. It was really weird. It's kind of culty. But so then from there he kind of went from one thing to another until he eventually reasoned out that the only true thing to believe is Catholicism. And from there he became one of the greatest philosophers / theologians / saints of all time. He became the bishop, and he changed the church forever. He changed how he fixed the church in a lot of different ways, but he trusted the process. I mean, God he seeked him out, and I think that our lives are much larger scale than we perceive it. I mean, we only perceive the present. We only perceive what's happening now.
Right.
So I think that eventually he came to be at peace with himself, which led to so much peace all around the world. So it's our duty as people to become at peace with ourselves. I think that starts there.
Yeah, no, that's good, and to be at peace with people around us. Because the old thing: if I'm pointing at you, 3 fingers are pointing back at me. So I think we often, and that's the other thing, and this might be another podcast, but we look at the like the broad national things going on, world things going on. We could say, oh, this person, but let's look at ourselves first.
Yeah.
And try to change in our own lives what we need to do. We need to be peacemakers.
I mean, Bible worldview, it says in the Bible, you must pull the splinter out of your eye before you can pull the splinter out of your brother's eye.
Well, it's pull the plank out of your own eye. Yeah, so that's even worse.
Yeah.
Just kind of wrapping up here. Again, in the New Catholic Study Bible, St. Jerome edition, in Matthew 25, Jesus is talking about the final judgment. People of all the nations will be gathered before him. This is Jesus talking. And then he talks about he's going to put people, the sheep on his right, the goats on his left, the people on his right. He says, you are blessed by my Father, come and possess the kingdom. And then he talks. He says, I was hungry and you fed me, thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you received me in your home. Naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you took care of me. In prison and you visited me. And the point was, he was saying, as long as you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me. You look at the Beatitudes for a biblical worldview, and I look at this, what Jesus talks about in Matthew, the gathering of the nations, and are we doing these things, in our own personal lives in us countries? I think the biblical worldview, it's kind of looking at, I look at it just kind of looking at these ongoing themes and precepts that throughout the Old and New Testament and what Jesus said, and one to me is not looking out for our own good, but looking out for the good of others. Really relevant in Matthew 25. It's like, hey, if somebody is thirsty, give them a drink. If somebody's hungry, give them food.
Yeah.
And if we all kind of had that
mindset,
I think we'd have the peace. All right. Well, I think we could cut it off here. Good job, you guys. Thanks for the conversation.
It's amazing.
All right.
Thanks for having me again.
All right. You guys go get some pizza.
All right.
Okay.
All right. And remember, God loves you.